I woke up on the morning of my daughter's wedding and found my silver hair scattered across the hotel pillow like someone had tried to erase me while I slept. For a moment, I did not move. I thought maybe I was still dreaming, caught somewhere between the soft hum of the air conditioner and the pale Charleston sunlight slipping through the curtains. Then my hand rose to my head, slow and careful, the way you touch a bruise before you are ready to know how badly it hurts. My fingers met bare skin, uneven patches, short rough places where my hair had been cut away without care. I sat up in the king-sized bed at the Harbor View Inn, the same hotel Lauren had insisted on booking because she said it would look elegant in photographs, and I stared at the strands of white and gray lying across the pillowcase. Some were long enough to curl against the cotton. Some were chopped short. I picked up one piece and held it between my fingers. It looked so small. That was the strange part. Something that had taken me 68 years to wear with peace could be reduced to a few quiet pieces on a pillow before breakfast. I did not scream. I did not call the front desk. I did not throw open the door and demand answers in the hallway where the bridesmaids were probably already steaming dresses and laughing over mimosas. I simply turned my head toward the chair by the window, where my mother of the bride dress should have been waiting. Champagne silk. 3/4 sleeves. A soft neckline Lauren had approved after rejecting 4 other dresses because, in her words, they made me look too old, too plain, too much like myself. The dress was still there, but it was no longer the dress I had zipped into the garment bag the night before. A dark red stain spread across the front like a spilled secret. Foundation was smeared near the collar. The hem had been snipped just enough to make it hang wrong, not enough to look accidental, just enough to make sure I would know. On the bathroom mirror, written in Lauren's coral lipstick, were 4 words, "Stay upstairs, Mom." I looked at those words for a long time. Not because I did not understand them. Because I finally did. The room was perfectly quiet except for the elevator bell faintly chiming somewhere down the hall. Outside my window, Charleston looked gentle and polished. Palm trees moved in the morning breeze. Car tires whispered over the wet street from last night's rain. Somewhere below, florists were probably carrying white roses into the ballroom, and the string quartet was probably unpacking their instruments, and my daughter was probably sitting in a robe with bride stitched across the back, pretending this day had begun beautifully. I stood and walked to the sink. My knees felt weak, but not from age. I was wearing the pale blue nightgown I had bought for this trip because I wanted to feel presentable even alone. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman I almost did not recognize. My head looked smaller. My face looked sharper. The wrinkles around my mouth seemed deeper in the unforgiving bathroom light. But my eyes were still mine. Thomas used to say my eyes gave me away before my words ever did. Thomas, my husband, gone 11 years now, had loved my hair when it turned silver. He used to stand behind me at the dresser and say, "Margaret, women pay good money for that color." I remembered laughing at him. I remembered him fastening a pearl hairpin near my temple before Lauren's high school graduation, telling me our girl would come around someday, that daughters sometimes had to grow far away before they understood who kept the porch light on. The pearl hairpin was on the counter beside the sink. Whoever had done this had left it there. That almost hurt more than the hair. I picked it up and closed my palm around it until the edges pressed into my skin. I thought about Lauren at 8 years old, climbing into my lap after a thunderstorm. Lauren at 17, crying because another girl had been cruel about her second-hand prom dress. Lauren at 22, hugging me outside her college dorm and promising she would make everything I had sacrificed worth it. And Lauren last night, kissing my cheek in front of Nathan's parents, smiling wide enough for the photographer, saying, "I couldn't have done any of this without my mom." Her voice had been warm then. Polished. Public. The kind of warmth people use when they know others are watching. I should have known from the way her hand tightened on my arm when I mentioned the bakery where I used to work double shifts. I should have known from the way she whispered, "Please don't bring up the old neighborhood tomorrow," as if poverty were something contagious I might carry into the ceremony on my shoes. I should have known when she placed me in a room on the 3rd floor while the wedding party filled the suites upstairs, when my welcome bag had no note, when the printed schedule skipped over my toast. But a mother has a dangerous talent for explaining away the knife while it is still being sharpened. I folded one lock of hair into a tissue and placed it beside Thomas's pearl pin. Then I washed my face. Slowly. Carefully. I cleaned the lipstick from the mirror until the words disappeared, though their meaning stayed behind. The wedding was in 3 hours. My daughter believed she had made me too ashamed to come downstairs. She believed a stained dress and a ruined hairstyle could keep a mother hidden in a hotel room like an embarrassing family photograph. I looked at myself again, touched the pearl pin in my palm, and smiled for the first time that morning. Not because I forgave her. Not because I was unhurt. Because Lauren had made one mistake. She thought my dignity lived in my hair. The night before, Lauren had still known how to sound like a daughter. That was the part my mind kept returning to while I stood in that hotel bathroom with Thomas's pearl pin in my hand. She had worn a white silk robe during the rehearsal dinner, her hair pinned loosely at the back of her neck, her smile bright enough to make strangers believe we were close. The ballroom had been filled with soft gold light and the smell of buttered shrimp, white roses, and expensive perfume. Nathan's family had flown in from Boston, polished people with careful manners and voices that never rose above a pleasant murmur. They used the right forks without looking down. They laughed with restraint. They made even compliments sound like something that had been approved in advance. Lauren moved among them like she had been born into that world. I watched her from a round table near the wall, my hands folded over my napkin, trying not to feel proud and lonely at the same time. She had worked hard to get there. I would never deny that. But I had worked hard too, only my labor did not photograph well. My work smelled like yeast at 5 in the morning, antiseptic at 9 at night, and drugstore coffee from paper cups when I was too tired to drive home. Lauren had asked me 3 times that week not to mention any of it. Just keep things light, Mom, she had said in the elevator before dinner, smoothing the front of my navy dress as if I were a display that had shifted out of place. Nathan's parents do not need the whole sad story. The whole sad story. That was what she called the years I kept us fed. I remember looking at her reflection in the elevator doors. She did not look cruel then. She looked nervous, which is often how cruelty dresses itself before company arrives. During dinner, she stood to thank everyone. Her voice trembled in the practiced way brides use when they want people to dab their eyes. She thanked Nathan's parents for welcoming her into their beautiful family. She thanked her bridesmaids for being her sisters by choice. Then she turned toward me. For 1 second, I saw my little girl again, the one with jam on her chin and crooked pigtails. And my mom, she said, pressing a hand to her chest. I could not have done any of this without her. The room turned to look at me. I smiled because that is what mothers do when their daughters offer them a flower with thorns still hidden in the stem. People clapped. Nathan's mother, Caroline, leaned over and whispered, "You must be so proud." I nodded. I was. That was the trouble. Pride does not leave all at once. It lingers long after respect is gone. Later, when people stood near the bar with glasses of champagne, Lauren found me by the gift table. Her perfume reached me before her voice did. "You did great tonight," she said softly. "Thank you, sweetheart." I touched her arm. She glanced around before letting me. "Tomorrow, just remember, the ceremony is very formal. No long stories, okay? No talking about Dad's accident. No bakery shifts, no trailer park, no church basement fundraisers. Nathan's grandmother is traditional, and I do not want anything to feel awkward." I looked at her hand, the diamond ring glittering under the chandelier. "Those things paid for the life you are celebrating." Her smile tightened. "I know. And I am grateful. But people do not need every detail. Every detail. The patched winter coat. The donated textbooks. The night I sold my small gold locket so she could pay a dorm fee she had forgotten to mention. The Thanksgiving I worked a double shift and told her I was not hungry so she would not feel guilty eating with a roommate's family. Details. Messy little things that did not match the ivory invitations. I wanted to tell her that Nathan deserved to know the woman he was marrying came from survival, not shame. Instead, I looked across the room at him. He was speaking with his father, laughing easily, unaware of the quiet negotiation happening 10 feet away. "I will not embarrass you," I said. Lauren exhaled as if I had just agreed to behave in public. "I know you will not. I just want everything perfect." Perfect. That word followed me back to my room later that night. Perfect flowers. Perfect music. Perfect lighting. Perfect mother, as long as she was quiet, softened, edited, and seated far enough back not to disturb the picture. I had noticed things by then. My name missing from the printed family program. My seat at the rehearsal dinner placed between two distant cousins who had never met me. The photographer lowering his camera whenever I stepped too close to Lauren. I had told myself it was wedding stress. I had told myself my daughter was tired. I had told myself many generous lies and called them love. Before bed, I hung my champagne dress on the chair and placed Thomas's pearl pin on the bathroom counter. I brushed my silver hair until it shone under the lamp. Then I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "Tomorrow, we get through this." I meant the wedding. I did not yet understand that I meant the truth. By 6:20 that morning, the hotel had already begun pretending nothing ugly could happen inside it. I could hear housekeeping. Carts rolling over the carpet outside my door, the small clink of glass bottles being restocked, the cheerful low voices of women passing in the hallway with garment bags over their arms. Somewhere above me, Lauren's bridesmaids were probably opening makeup palettes and taking pictures of coffee cups beside silk slippers. The world was moving forward with the wedding, smooth and bright, while I stood in front of the closet trying to decide whether a mother could walk into her daughter's ceremony looking like a warning. I took the ruined dress from the chair and laid it across the bed. The stain had dried darker at the center. The cut near the hem was small but deliberate, a little smile in the fabric. I ran my fingers along it, thinking of the seamstress in Mount Pleasant who had pinned it while Lauren stood behind me with crossed arms. "It is fine," Lauren had said then, though her face said otherwise. "Just make sure you wear something over your arms." I had laughed softly at the time because I thought she meant the church might be cold. Now I understood she had been editing me long before this morning. I opened my suitcase and looked at what little I had brought. A pair of black slacks. A cotton cardigan. A simple navy dress for the trip home. Nothing appropriate for a wedding at a waterfront chapel where the flowers alone probably cost more than my first car. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence settle around me. The easiest thing would have been to stay upstairs. To call down and say I was sick. To let Lauren have the clean version of the day she wanted, a version with no mother in the photographs, no reminder of the small house with the leaking roof, no silver-haired woman who knew the names of every sacrifice hidden beneath that lace gown. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Lauren. Not asking if I was awake. Not asking if I needed help. Just 6 words, "Please remember the schedule today." I stared at it until the screen went dark. A minute later, another message came through from an unknown number, probably one of the bridesmaids. "Bride is getting ready now. Family photos at 9:30 sharp. Please be on time if you are coming. If you are coming." I almost laughed, but the sound would not form. There it was, wrapped in politeness, the same message from the mirror. "Stay away, but make it look like your choice." I walked to the bathroom and turned on the light again. The mirror was clean now, but I could still see the faint smear where the lipstick had been. I wet a washcloth and rubbed until even that was gone. Then I looked at my head. Uneven. pale in places that had not seen sunlight in years. Vulnerable. Honest. I found a small pair of manicure scissors in my toiletry bag and trimmed a few longer pieces near my ear, not to make it pretty, only to make it mine. That mattered. There is a difference between what someone does to humiliate you and what you choose to carry. When I finished, I wrapped the hotel towel around my shoulders and opened the door just enough to hang the "Do Not Disturb" sign outside. Across the hall, two young women in matching satin robes stopped mid-sentence when they saw me. One was Brittany, Lauren's maid of honor, with honey blonde hair and a smile that always looked borrowed from a magazine. The other I recognized from the rehearsal dinner but could not name. Their eyes moved from my face to my head, then away too quickly. Brittany's mouth opened. Closed. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitaker," she said. Too bright. Too careful. "Good morning, Brittany." I watched her hand tighten around her phone. The other girl looked down at the carpet. Neither asked what happened. That told me more than an accusation would have. "Lauren is upstairs," Brittany added. "She is really stressed, so maybe give her some space until the ceremony." "How thoughtful," I said. My voice sounded calm enough to surprise all three of us. Brittany swallowed. "It is just a big day." "Yes," I said. "Big days reveal people." The hallway went still. I closed the door gently. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just enough to end the conversation. For several minutes, I stood with my back against the door, breathing slowly. My hands were shaking now, but only my hands. I let them. Then I dressed in the navy travel dress. It was plain, but clean. I buttoned the cardigan over it, then took Thomas's pearl pin and held it against a folded scarf I found at the bottom of my suitcase. Silver silk. I had packed it in case the evening turned chilly by the harbor. I tied it over my head, not to hide what had happened, but to frame what remained. The pearl pin sat near my left temple, bright and steady. When I looked in the mirror again, I did not see the mother Lauren had tried to remove. I saw the woman who had survived losing a husband, raising a child alone, working until her feet ached, and still arriving wherever love required her to stand. At 7:15, I picked up my purse, the folded tissue with my hair, and the room key. Before leaving, I glanced once at the ruined dress on the bed. Yesterday, I had thought that dress was my place in the wedding. Today, I knew better. My place was not fabric. It was not hair. It was not Lauren's permission. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The hallway outside my room smelled faintly of coffee, hairspray, and the lemon polish hotels use when they want everything to feel expensive and untouched. I walked past the two bridesmaids without looking back. The elevator doors opened, and for a moment I saw my reflection in the brushed metal, navy dress, silver scarf, pearl pin, small purse held in both hands. I did not look like the mother of the bride from Lauren's mood boards. I looked like a woman who had stopped asking permission to exist. Downstairs, the lobby was already dressed for celebration. White roses curved around the staircase rail. A welcome sign with Lauren and Nathan's names stood on an easel near the entrance, written in gold script so delicate it seemed afraid of being read. Guests drifted in small groups, smiling, adjusting ties, checking phones, admiring the harbor view through the tall windows. No one expected anything unpleasant before breakfast. That is the advantage of pain when it arrives quietly. People do not notice it until it is standing beside them. I moved toward the coffee station near the lobby windows, partly because my hands needed something warm to hold, partly because I wanted to see the room before it saw me. A woman from Nathan's side glanced at my scarf, then smiled with polite uncertainty. A man in a gray suit looked at me twice, then looked away as if embarrassed by his own curiosity. I poured coffee into a paper cup and added one small creamer, exactly the way Thomas used to tease me for drinking it, pale and mild. The first sip steadied me. Across the lobby, the wedding photographer was arranging flat lay shots of invitations, perfume bottles, and Lauren's shoes on a velvet board. He was the same young man who had lowered his camera the night before whenever I came close. I watched him carefully place the pearl white invitation under a ribbon and thought about all the things a camera leaves out. It would capture the flowers, the rings, the lace sleeves, the practiced laughter. It would not capture the phone calls I took at midnight when Lauren was homesick her first semester at Clemson. It would not capture the second job I worked when her scholarship did not cover housing. It would not capture me standing in a grocery aisle with $12 in my wallet, choosing pasta and canned tomatoes because I could stretch them for 3 dinners and still mail her $20 for gas. People love beautiful beginnings. They rarely ask who paid for them with tired hands. I sat in a chair near the window, my purse in my lap, and let the memories come because there was no stopping them now. Lauren had been 6 when Thomas died. One ordinary Thursday morning, he kissed my cheek before leaving for work, and by supper, my life had become a before and after. I remember kneeling on the kitchen floor that night because my legs would not hold me. Lauren stood in the doorway in her pajamas, clutching a stuffed rabbit, asking why Daddy was not coming home. I had wanted to collapse. Instead, I opened my arms. That was motherhood. You learned to break inward so the child could still find somewhere soft to land. After that, every year had been a careful calculation. Rent, utilities, school clothes, dentist bills, Christmas gifts bought on layaway from a store that no longer exists. I worked mornings at Harbor Street Bakery, arriving before sunrise to stack trays of biscuits and cinnamon rolls, then evenings at an assisted living center across town, helping women older than I am now button sweaters, find eyeglasses, and remember whether their sons had called. Some nights I came home so tired I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes because walking from the car to the porch felt like crossing a field. But Lauren never missed a field trip because of money. She never went without a birthday cake. She never knew how often I went without lunch so she could have lunch money folded into her backpack. I thought shielding her from hardship was love. Maybe it was. But it also taught her that comfort appeared by magic, and that the woman creating it did not need to be seen. When Lauren got into college, I cried in the laundry room where she would not hear me. When she graduated, I wore a blue dress from a clearance rack and pinned Thomas's pearl clip in my hair. She hugged me for the photograph, then moved quickly to stand with her friends. I told myself that was normal. Children move forward. Mothers stand behind them and clap. But standing behind someone for too long can teach them you belong there. A soft burst of laughter came from the staircase. I looked up and saw Lauren descending with her bridesmaids around her like a white cloud. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup soft. Her face glowing in that public way from the night before. Then she saw me. Only for a second, her expression changed. Not guilt. Not sorrow. Alarm. Her eyes flicked to my scarf, to the pearl pin, to the guests nearby. She recovered quickly, but I had already seen the truth. She was not upset by what had happened. She was upset that it had failed. Brittany leaned close to her and whispered something. Lauren's jaw tightened. I stood, coffee still in hand, and met my daughter's eyes across the lobby. I did not wave. I did not smile. I simply looked at her the way I should have looked years ago, without explaining her to myself. For the first time, Lauren looked away first. Lauren looked away first, but she did not come toward me. That told me everything. A daughter who finds her mother altered and standing alone on the morning of her wedding should cross a lobby without thinking. She should ask what happened. She should touch her mother's arm. She should forget. Flowers, schedules, photographs, and the careful choreography of a perfect day for at least one honest minute. Lauren did none of that. She turned slightly, giving Brittany a look I had seen before, the kind of look she used when a waiter brought the wrong salad or a saleswoman showed her something from last season. A problem had appeared. It needed managing. Not loving. Not understanding. Managing. I set my coffee on a side table and walked toward the hallway that led to the restrooms and event offices. I did not know where I was going yet. I only knew I needed air that did not smell like roses and money. Before I reached the corner, a voice called softly behind me. Aunt Margaret? I turned and saw Ellie Grant standing near the gift table with a small white box in her hands. Ellie was Thomas's niece, though after all these years she felt more like my own. She had been 12 when he passed, all knees and freckles, crying into my kitchen towel because Uncle Thomas had taught her how to bait a fishing hook at Folly Beach. Now she was 29, with clear brown eyes, a practical ponytail, and the same steady kindness Thomas's family had always carried without making a performance of it. She looked at my scarf first, then my face. Her smile disappeared. What happened? She asked. Not loudly. Not for attention. Just enough truth in the question that I almost broke. I touched the pearl pin at my temple. Nothing I cannot walk through. Her eyes sharpened. That is not an answer. I glanced toward the lobby. Lauren was pretending to listen to Caroline Brooks while watching us from the corner of her eye. Not here, I said. Ellie nodded once. She took my elbow, gently, and led me down the hall toward a small sitting room near the business center. It had 2 cream chairs, a fake orchid, and a window facing the side alley where delivery trucks came and went. The moment the door closed, Ellie set the white box on the table and turned to me. Please tell me the truth. I sat down. The room felt too small for what had happened, but small rooms sometimes hold truth better than ballrooms. I untied the scarf enough for her to see the uneven places beneath it. Ellie covered her mouth with both hands. Tears came to her eyes so quickly I looked away, not because I was ashamed, but because her grief was too kind and I did not know what to do with kindness yet. Who did this? She whispered. I picked a thread from my cardigan sleeve. The mirror said enough. The mirror? I told her about the lipstick. The dress. The hallway. Brittany's face. I kept my voice even. Every word came out clean and flat, like silverware being placed carefully beside a plate. Ellie did not interrupt. When I finished, she stood very still. Then she said, there are cameras. I looked up. What? Hotel hallway cameras. I noticed them last night because one was right outside the elevator on your floor. If someone went into your room, the hotel has it. For the first time that morning, something shifted beneath my ribs. Not relief. Not anger. Something colder. Shape. I do not want a scene, I said. I know. Ellie wiped her face with the back of her hand. But you deserve the truth before they turn this into your fault. That sentence landed hard. Because that was exactly what would happen. If I stayed upstairs, Lauren would sigh and tell guests I had become emotional. If I appeared upset, she would say I was making the wedding about myself. If I accused her without proof, I would be the unstable mother who could not let her daughter have one beautiful day. I knew the script because I had helped write it for years. Every time I excused her sharpness as stress, every time I swallowed embarrassment so she could remain comfortable. Ellie picked up the phone on the side table and called the front desk. Her voice changed when she spoke to them, calm and professional, the voice of a woman who handled difficult conversations for a living. She said there had been an incident involving possible unauthorized entry into a guest room. She did not mention Lauren's name. She did not mention the wedding. She asked for the manager. While we waited, she opened the white box she had brought. Inside was my corsage. 3 tiny white roses, a ribbon, and a pearl-headed pin. I was supposed to bring this to you, she said quietly. Lauren told me to leave it at your door. If you were not dressed. I looked at the flowers. Such a delicate little thing, meant to mark me as mother. A symbol, delivered after the wound. Pin it on me, I said. Ellie hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. She fastened the corsage to my cardigan with careful fingers. White roses against navy cotton. Not what Lauren planned. Still mine. 10 minutes later, the assistant manager arrived, a young man named Daniel with a navy suit and a worried expression. He listened, looked at my scarf, then looked away with visible discomfort. To his credit, he did not ask me whether I was certain. He asked for my permission to review the hallway footage. Ellie went with him because I asked her to. I stayed in the sitting room alone, watching delivery men carry crates of champagne past the alley window. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Outside, the wedding machine continued to turn. At last, Ellie came back. Her face had changed. Not shocked anymore. Confirmed. She closed the door behind her and sat across from me. It was Lauren, she said. Brittany was with her. So was another bridesmaid. I looked down at my corsage. The roses were still fresh. What time? Ellie swallowed. 2:13 in the morning. They used a key card. The room became very quiet. I thought the truth would hit like thunder. It did not. It settled over me like dust after a house finally stops shaking. Did Daniel save it? I asked. Ellie nodded. He made a copy. He said he will provide it if you request it formally. I stood and retied my scarf in the mirror above the side table. My hands were steady now. Do not show anyone yet, I said. Ellie stared at me. Aunt Margaret. Not yet. I adjusted Thomas's pearl pin until it caught the light. Lauren has spent years deciding what people are allowed to see. Today, I want to let her finish showing them. By 8:45, the chapel doors were open, and the harbor wind was moving through the white ribbons tied to the aisle chairs. The wedding coordinator, a thin woman with a headset and a clipboard, kept walking in small fast circles, whispering into her microphone as if the fate of the nation depended on rose petals being scattered evenly. Guests began to gather near the entrance, their voices soft with the careful excitement people use before ceremonies. I stood with Ellie in the side hallway outside the ballroom, waiting until the crowd moved toward the chapel. She kept glancing at me the way people glance at a candle in a draft, afraid it might go out. I wanted to tell her I was not fragile. I was only finished pretending. There is a difference. You do not have to do this, she said for the third time. I looked down at my navy dress, my cardigan, the white corsage pinned near my heart. I know. We can go straight to Daniel. We can call someone. We can make them handle it before the ceremony. I watched Lauren through the glass doors at the end of the hall. She was standing with her bridesmaids, luminous in her gown, while Brittany adjusted the train with trembling fingers. Lauren's face had that bridal glow guests would call happiness. I knew better. Her eyes kept searching the room for me, not with worry, but calculation. She was waiting to see whether shame had worked. No, I said. Not before. Ellie pressed her lips together. Why? I turned toward her. Because if we stop it now, she will become the victim before anyone knows what she did. The wedding will be ruined by my accusation, not by her choice. I have spent too many years protecting Lauren from the consequences of her own behavior. I will not do it for her on the most photographed day of her life. Ellie said nothing after that. She only reached over and straightened the pearl pin on my scarf. Her fingers were gentle. Uncle Thomas would be proud of you, she whispered. That nearly undid me. Not the hair. Not the dress. Not Lauren's message on the mirror. That simple sentence. I had been carrying Thomas with me all morning like a hand on my shoulder, but hearing his name in Ellie's voice made him feel close enough to turn and see. I swallowed hard. He always wanted me to stand up straighter. Ellie gave a small, wet laugh. Then stand up straighter. So I did. The music began, soft strings floating out from the chapel. Guests took their seats. I waited until the ushers were distracted with Nathan's grandmother, who moved slowly and insisted on greeting everyone she passed. Then I stepped into the doorway. A few heads turned. Then a few more. Curiosity moved through the chapel like a breeze. I could feel eyes on my scarf, my plain dress, the corsage, the absence of the champagne silk Lauren had approved. I did not lower my head. I walked down the side aisle, not the center, my shoes quiet against the polished floor. The front row on the bride's side had a small card with the word family written in gold ink. My name was not on it. I had noticed that during rehearsal. Lauren had said seating was complicated. I had believed her because believing her had been easier than admitting my daughter had assigned me to the edge of her life. An usher stepped forward, flustered. "Ma'am, I think your seat is just behind. I am Lauren's mother," I said quietly. Not sharply. Not loudly. Just clearly enough that the people closest to us heard. The usher froze. His cheeks reddened. He looked toward the coordinator, who was too far away to rescue him. "Of course," he said, and moved aside. I sat in the first row, exactly where a mother belongs. The chair felt almost unfamiliar beneath me. For years, I had allowed myself to be shifted backward inch by inch. Behind friends. Behind appearances. Behind Lauren's need to seem untouched by where she came from. But a first row is not only a place. It is a statement. Ellie sat beside me. She did not ask. She simply took the seat and folded her hands. Across the aisle, Nathan's mother looked at me with a question in her face, but her manners held it back. I gave her a small nod. She returned it. Then the processional began. Bridesmaids entered one by one, smiling too brightly. Brittany's eyes landed on me and flickered away. Her bouquet shook slightly in her hands. I watched her walk past, thinking how quickly some people become brave in groups and afraid when truth sits in the front row. Then everyone stood. Lauren appeared at the chapel doors with her arm looped through that of Nathan's father, because Thomas was gone and she had decided no one from my side was polished enough to walk her in. She was beautiful. I will not lie. My daughter looked breathtaking in the soft morning light, lace sleeves fitted to her wrists, veil trailing behind her, face lifted toward the room that had gathered to admire her. For one dangerous second, my heart forgot everything and saw only the child I had raised. Then her eyes found mine. Her step faltered. Just slightly. Enough for Nathan's father to glance at her. Enough for Brittany to stiffen near the altar. Enough for me to know she had expected an empty chair. I did not smile this time. I only held her gaze and remained standing with everyone else. The music carried her forward. Step by step. Guest by guest. Lie by lie. When she reached the altar, Nathan turned and looked at her with open devotion. Then his eyes moved past her to me. He blinked, confused by my scarf, perhaps by my seat, perhaps by the expression on Lauren's face. Lauren squeezed his hands too quickly. The officiant began speaking about love, honor, and the families who shape us. Those words settled over the chapel with a weight I do not think anyone else felt yet. Love. Honor. Family. I sat down when everyone else did, placed my purse in my lap, and touched the folded tissue inside it. The one holding a piece of my hair. Not evidence. Not revenge. A reminder. Lauren had wanted me hidden upstairs while she promised a life built on trust. Instead, I sat 15 feet away and listened to every vow. I did not interrupt. I did not cry. I let the ceremony become exactly what she had planned. Beautiful. Public. Impossible to take back. The ceremony ended with applause so polished it almost sounded rehearsed. Lauren and Nathan walked back down the aisle beneath a storm of white petals, smiling for the cameras, hand in hand, while guests rose around them in a wave of admiration. I stood with everyone else. I clapped too. Not because the morning had been repaired, and not because I had forgotten what waited in my purse and in Daniel's office. I clapped because Nathan had made his vows honestly, as far as I could tell, and because even after everything, part of me could not stop honoring the sacred shape of a promise. Lauren did not look at me when she passed. Her chin was lifted, her smile fixed, her fingers tight around Nathan's hand. She had regained control, or thought she had. That was always when Lauren became most careless. After the ceremony, guests moved toward the ballroom for brunch, carried along by the scent of glazed ham, biscuits, coffee, and the sweet lemon cake Lauren had chosen because she said wedding cake alone felt too expected. The ballroom looked like a magazine spread. White flowers overflowed from low crystal bowls. Gold flatware gleamed beside folded napkins. A jazz trio played near the windows with the harbor shining behind them. Every surface reflected the life Lauren wanted people to believe she had stepped into naturally, without fingerprints from the woman who raised her. Ellie stayed close to me as we entered. "Are you all right?" she asked. I looked at the seating chart. My name had been corrected with a small sticker, placed at table 12 near the back. There were only 11 guest tables. "I am beginning to be," I said. Ellie followed my gaze and her mouth tightened. Before she could speak, Nathan appeared beside us. He looked handsome and nervous in the way good men often do when they sense a problem but have not yet been given its name. "Mrs. Whitaker," he said, "I am glad you made it down. Lauren said you might be resting this morning." There it was. Not sick. Not delayed. Resting. A word clean enough to hide a door locked from the outside. I smiled gently. I decided I had rested long enough. His eyes moved again to my scarf. He was too polite to ask, but not too blind to notice. "You look very elegant," he said. The kindness in that small lie nearly hurt. "Thank you, Nathan." Lauren arrived before he could say more. She slid her arm through his and leaned into him like a bride in a photograph. "There you are," she said to me, bright and thin. "I was worried when I did not see you earlier." I looked at her. "Were you?" Her smile held, but her eyes did not. "Of course. It is an emotional day." "Yes," I said. "It is." Nathan glanced between us. Lauren turned quickly toward the photographer. "We should do family pictures before brunch gets cold." The photographer lifted his camera. "Bride's immediate family first." Lauren froze for half a second. Immediate family. Such ordinary words. Such an inconvenient doorway. I stepped beside her before she could redirect him. Ellie stood a little behind me, silent as a witness. Nathan smiled, unaware, and placed an arm around Lauren's waist. I stood on Lauren's other side. She did not touch me. The camera clicked. Once. Twice. 3 times. In those photographs, anyone looking carefully would see the truth before knowing the story. The daughter glowing in white. The mother in navy with a silver scarf and a pearl pin. The space between them wide enough to hold years. Brunch began with speeches. Nathan's father spoke first, warm and brief. Caroline Brooks followed with a toast about family traditions, about welcoming Lauren as a daughter, about how marriage reveals character through ordinary days more than beautiful ones. I watched Lauren sip champagne without tasting it. Then Brittany stood, hands shaking only slightly, and told a story about meeting Lauren in college, about ambition, style, and never settling for less than perfect. People laughed. Lauren relaxed. The room belonged to her again. Then the master of ceremonies glanced at his card and said, "And now, a few words from the bride's mother." Lauren's head snapped toward him. So did Brittany's. I later learned Ellie had spoken to the coordinator during cocktail hour. She had not demanded anything. She had simply said that omitting the mother of the bride would look strange to the groom's family. Ellie understood appearances too. She had just learned to use them in service of the truth. I stood slowly. The room settled. Lauren's face changed in layers: surprise, irritation, warning. I walked to the small platform near the jazz trio, accepted the microphone, and looked out at the faces turned toward me. I could feel my heart, but it was not racing. It was steady. A clock finally telling the right time. Most of you know me as Margaret, I began. Some of you know me only as Lauren's mother. That has been the great work of my life. Lauren's lips parted. I continued before she could move. When Lauren was a little girl, she believed I could fix anything. A torn dress. A fever. A school project due the next morning. A heart broken by someone who did not see her worth. I could not always fix things, but I tried. Mothers do that. We try until our hands ache, and then we try again. The room softened. Even Lauren's expression flickered, because she knew the story beneath the words. Her father, Thomas, is not here today. But before he passed, he asked me to keep something for the day Lauren married. Not money first. Not jewelry first. A letter. I reached into my purse and took out the envelope. Lauren went pale enough that Nathan noticed. She did not know about the letter. She knew about the family fund, of course. She had asked about it many times, always gently, always as if financial planning were a form of affection. But she did not know Thomas had written conditions into it with his attorney after watching his own relatives tear each other apart over inheritance. I unfolded the paper. Thomas wrote that love without respect becomes performance. He wrote that any gift from our family was meant to bless a marriage built on honor, not reward cruelty hidden behind good manners. A murmur moved through the room. I did not look at Lauren. Not yet. There is a wedding fund of $400,000 that Thomas and I built over years. It was meant for Lauren, if the day came when she entered marriage with honesty, gratitude, and respect for the parent who raised her. Lauren stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. Mom, she said, laughing once, sharp and false. This is not the time. I finally turned to her. I agree, I said softly. It should never have become the time. The ballroom went very quiet. Lauren's voice hung in the ballroom like a glass set too close to the edge of a table. This is not the time, she had said, and for one breath I almost believed her. Mothers are trained by years of birthday candles, school concerts, and late-night fevers to protect the child first, even when that child has learned to use protection as a hiding place. I looked at my daughter standing beside her chair, white dress glowing beneath the chandeliers, face tight with fear she wanted everyone to mistake for hurt. Then I looked at Nathan. He was no longer smiling. His eyes moved from Lauren to me, then to the envelope in my hand. What is going on? He asked quietly. Lauren reached for his arm. Nothing. My mother is overwhelmed. She has been emotional all morning. There it was again. The clean explanation prepared in advance. Emotional. Unstable. Difficult. A mother too old to manage a daughter's happiness. I folded Thomas's letter once and placed it back in the envelope. Nathan, I said, I am sorry this is touching your wedding day. You deserved honesty before today, not during it. Lauren's face hardened. Do not talk to him like there is some scandal. You are embarrassing yourself. A few guests shifted in their seats. Caroline Brooks put one hand to her throat. Brittany stared down at her plate as if the white linen napkin had become fascinating. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. This morning, I woke to find my hair cut away, my dress ruined, and a message on my bathroom mirror telling me to stay upstairs. The room changed. Not loudly. No one gasped the way people do in movies. It was worse than that. The silence became alert. Forks stopped halfway to plates. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath. Lauren laughed once. It was a small, brittle sound. "That is ridiculous." I nodded. Yes. It was. "Mom, stop." "I tried to stop many things over the years," I said. "I tried to stop myself from noticing when you moved me to the back of your life. I tried to stop myself from hearing the shame in your voice when you talked about where we came from. I tried to stop myself from believing you would rather have no mother in the room than one who did not match the wedding colors." Her cheeks flushed. "You are twisting everything." Nathan stepped back from her hand. "Lauren, did something happen this morning?" "No," she said too quickly. Then she looked toward Brittany. That was her mistake. Everyone saw it. Brittany's face crumpled before she could hide it. Ellie stood from the table near the front, holding a small flash drive between two fingers. She did not look triumphant. She looked sad. That made it more powerful. "The hotel has hallway footage," she said. Daniel, the assistant manager, reviewed it with me. 3 people entered Aunt Margaret's room at 2:13 in the morning using a key card. Lauren was one of them. The sound that moved through the ballroom then was not a gasp. It was judgment finding air. Nathan turned fully toward his bride. "Is that true?" Lauren's mouth opened. Closed. Her eyes darted from Nathan to his parents, to the photographer who had slowly lowered his camera, to the guests who had admired her 30 minutes earlier and now looked as if they were seeing a stranger in her dress. "It was not like that," she said. The sentence did not deny anything. It only asked for shelter. Nathan's voice was low. "What was it like?" Lauren swallowed. She was going to ruin everything. I watched Caroline Brooks close her eyes. That was the moment the room understood. Not because of the footage. Not because of the money. Because Lauren had finally said the quiet part in plain English. She did not say I was lying. She did not say she was sorry. She said I had been in the way. "Ruin what?" Nathan asked. His face had gone pale beneath the careful tan. Lauren looked at him as if he should already understand. "The pictures. The atmosphere. Your family was all there, and she keeps talking about the past, about struggling and dad dying and all that depressing stuff. She makes everything heavy. I just wanted one day where I did not have to feel embarrassed." The words came faster now, panicked and polished at the same time. It was supposed to be a joke. She was supposed to stay in her room and calm down. I was going to send breakfast up later. Breakfast. I almost smiled. Not from humor. From the strange precision of cruelty. A ruined dress, a hidden mother, and room service as compensation. Nathan stared at her as if the woman in front of him had stepped out of a costume. "You went into her room while she was sleeping," he said slowly, each word placed with care. "You damaged her dress. You left a message on the mirror. On our wedding day." Lauren's eyes filled with tears, but even they seemed directed at the wrong audience. "I was under pressure. You do not understand what it has been like trying to make everything perfect." "Perfect?" His voice broke on the word. "Lauren, that is your mother." The sentence landed harder than any accusation I could have made. Lauren looked at me then, really looked, perhaps for the first time that day. I stood on the small platform in my navy dress, silver scarf, pearl pin, and white rose corsage. I was not the version of me she had tried to create, and I was not the version she had tried to erase. I was simply there. Witnessed. Whole enough. Brittany began crying quietly. The other bridesmaid whispered, "I am sorry," though I did not know whether she meant it for me, Lauren, or herself. Ellie walked to Nathan and handed him the flash drive. "Daniel said the hotel will cooperate with any formal request," she said. Nathan took it without looking away from Lauren. Caroline rose from her seat and came to stand beside her son. She did not speak to Lauren. She looked at me. "Mrs. Whitaker," she said, voice trembling, "I am deeply sorry." I inclined my head. It was not her apology to give, but I accepted the decency of it. Lauren sank back into her chair as if the gown had become too heavy. "Mom," she whispered, finally. That one word had carried me through decades. This time, it arrived empty. I took the microphone again. "Thomas's letter will go to the attorney tomorrow morning. The wedding fund is suspended until further review." Lauren's head snapped up. There she was. Not at the mention of my hair. Not at the mention of my dress. At the money. The room saw that too. I placed the microphone on the stand and stepped down from the platform. No one stopped me. No one spoke. As I passed Lauren's table, she reached toward me, but her hand fell before it touched my sleeve. I think some part of her already knew that the distance between us had finally become too honest to cross with a performance. I left the ballroom before the cake was cut. That is what people remember most, I think. Not the letter. Not the silence. Not Lauren's face when the word suspended reached her ears. They remember that I did not stay to watch the damage rearrange itself into excuses. I did not stand in a corner while guests pretended to refresh drinks just so they could hear what happened next. I did not wait for my daughter to decide whether she was sorry enough to look human. I simply walked out with my purse in one hand and Thomas's pearl pin holding my scarf in place, past the gift table, past the white roses, past the framed seating chart that had never known where to put me. Ellie followed me into the hallway, but she did not speak until the ballroom doors closed behind us. "Aunt Margaret," she said, and then stopped, because there are moments when comfort feels too small to carry what needs carrying. I touched her cheek. "You did the right thing." Her eyes filled again. "I wish it had not been today." I looked back at the closed doors. Behind them, a wedding reception had become something else. A room full of people was learning that beauty can be arranged, rented, photographed, and still have no character inside it. "So do I said. But Lauren chose the day. Daniel was waiting near the front desk with an envelope and the professional sadness of someone who had seen too much without having permission to say so. Inside was the incident report, the contact information for hotel management, and instructions for requesting the footage through the proper legal channels. He apologized twice. I told him once was enough. Then I went upstairs, not because I had been told to stay there, but because I had a suitcase to pack. My room looked different when I returned. The ruined champagne dress still lay across the bed, stiff where the stain had dried. The tissue with my hair rested near the lamp. The mirror was clean. The room no longer felt like a place where something had been taken from me. It felt like a place where I had finally stopped leaving pieces of myself behind for Lauren to approve. I folded the navy dress I had planned to wear home and placed it in the suitcase. I wrapped Thomas's pearl pin in a handkerchief and set it carefully in the inside pocket of my purse. I did not take the ruined dress. I left it hanging over the chair, visible from the doorway. Not as evidence. Not as drama. As a fact. Downstairs, a car service took me away from the harbor view in just after noon. Through the window, I saw the white ribbons at the chapel entrance lifting in the wind. Guests stood in small clusters near the valet, speaking in low voices, their brunch plates probably still warm inside. I did not look for Lauren. For once, I did not organize my leaving around whether my daughter would notice. The ride home to my small house outside Charleston took 27 minutes. I counted them because counting was easier than feeling. The driver asked if I had been at a wedding. I looked at my corsage, the white roses beginning to soften at the edges. "Yes," I said. "In a way." He did not ask more. When I stepped inside my house, the quiet met me like an old friend. No chandeliers. No gold script. No expensive flowers trying to perfume the truth. Just the ticking clock in the kitchen, the faded rug by the door, the framed photograph of Thomas holding Lauren on his shoulders at Folly Beach when she was 5. I stood before that picture for a long time. I wanted to hate the girl in it. I could not. She was laughing with her whole face, one hand tangled in Thomas's hair, the other reaching toward me behind the camera. That child had been real. So had the woman in the ballroom. Accepting both was its own kind of grief. The calls began at 3:16. Lauren first. Then Brittany. Then a number I did not recognize. Then Lauren again. I let them ring. By evening, the messages came. Mom, please answer. You humiliated me. Nathan will not talk to me. His parents are furious. We need to discuss the fund before you make any permanent decisions. That was the first message she sent after her apology, if it could be called one. She was sorry I felt hurt. Sorry things got emotional. Sorry the day became difficult. But the word money appeared before the word pain. I placed the phone face down on the kitchen table and made tea. The next morning, I called Thomas's attorney, Mr. Aldridge, who still worked from the same brick office downtown. I told him I was ready to activate the review clause. He did not sound surprised. Older attorneys know families. They keep their sorrow in manila folders. Within 2 weeks, the wedding fund was frozen. Within 3, Nathan had postponed merging any accounts with Lauren. Within a month, Caroline sent me a handwritten note on thick cream paper. She did not mention gossip. She did not ask for details. She only wrote that no mother should have to earn a place in her child's life by becoming smaller. I kept that note in my Bible. Lauren kept calling. At first, she cried. Then she blamed stress. Then Brittany. Then the pressure of Nathan's family. Then me, for making old struggles part of her identity. She never asked whether my scalp had hurt in the morning air. She never asked what it felt like to walk through a chapel knowing everyone was staring. She never asked if I slept that night. One afternoon, for weeks after the wedding, I stood in my bathroom and saw the first soft silver growth returning along my head. It was barely there, more light than hair, but it made me smile. I touched it gently. New things often begin without asking permission. I took Thomas's pearl pin from the drawer and set it on the counter. For years, I had thought dignity was something a family gave back when they finally understood you. I was wrong. Dignity is what remains when they do not. I looked at my reflection, at the short silver beginning, at the lines around my eyes, at the woman Lauren had tried to hide and accidentally set free. Then I picked up my phone, blocked my daughter's number, and made myself breakfast. Toast. Scrambled eggs. Coffee with 1 small creamer. Nothing fancy. Nothing photographed. Just mine.